What if everything you believe about yourself is wrong? What if the voice inside your head, the one whispering fear, doubt, and hesitation, has been lying to you your entire life? Right now, unseen and unheard, a quiet battle is being fought inside you. A battle between who you are and who you are told to be. Between the strength you were born with and the limits you learn to accept. Have you ever wondered why some people rise after every fall while others disappear into their failures? Why confidence looks effortless on the outside but feels impossible on the inside? This is not just a book. This is a mirror. And it is about to show you a version of yourself you've never truly met. Welcome to a life-changing work, The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. A guide not to becoming someone else, but to finally becoming yourself. With every word, a wall will crack. With every chapter, a hidden strength will wake up. And with every truth you hear, the old story about who you are will begin to collapse. Because self-esteem isn't a luxury. It's survival. It's destiny. It's the difference between merely existing and fully living. Now, let's begin the audiobook. If you are ready, let me open the very first page of this journey. Chapter 1. The Silent Crisis. What if the life you're living looks successful on the outside, but feels empty on the inside? What if the real reason behind your anxiety, exhaustion, and self-doubt isn't failure, but something far deeper? There is a quiet emergency happening all around us. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't break the news. It doesn't appear on your phone as an alert, and yet it is one of the most powerful forces shaping human lives today. It is the crisis of self-esteem. You may see it in the face of the businessman who has everything, yet sleeps poorly at night. You may hear it in the voice of the student who achieves high grades but feels like a fraud. You may feel it in your own chest when the world is quiet and your thoughts become loud. It is the feeling that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you accomplish, something is never enough. You never feel enough. From the outside, everything may look fine. From the inside, it feels like a hollow room where your voice echoes back at you. People don't usually talk about this out loud. Instead, they hide it with humor. They bury it under busy schedules. They mask it with confidence, anger, or perfectionism. Some numb it with distractions. Some drown it with addictions. Some cover it with success. But in private, in the quiet, they wonder why happiness never stays, why love feels fragile, why confidence rises and collapses without warning. This is the silent crisis, and it is more common than anyone admits, because self-esteem is not just about feeling good. It is about how you interpret failure. It is about how you respond to rejection. It is about what you believe you deserve when nobody is watching. Low self-esteem does not always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like arrogance. Sometimes it looks like control. Sometimes it looks like ambition that never rests. Sometimes it looks like staying in relationships that hurt. At its core, low self-esteem is not loud. It is quiet, subtle, persistent. It whispers in moments of decision. It hums beneath every success. It comments on every mistake. And over time, it becomes a voice you start to believe. A voice that says, "You are behind. You are not good enough. You should be better by now. You'll be found out. They'll leave when they see the real you. And so you work harder. You become nicer. You become tougher. You become smaller. You become everything except yourself. Psychologists have long known something most people have never been told. Self-esteem is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is not decoration for a good life. It is the foundation of one. Without it, no amount of money brings peace. No relationship feels secure. No achievement finally satisfies. Without self-esteem, even joy becomes temporary and fear becomes permanent. Think about it. Why do some people bounce back from disaster while others collapse under much less? Why do some forgive themselves and grow while others punish themselves endlessly? Why do some feel worthy of love and others feel like they have to earn it every single day? The difference isn't luck. It isn't intelligence. It isn't talent. It is their relationship with themselves. And that relationship was built one thought at a time, one experience at a time, one judgment at a time, long before they realized what was happening. Many people grow up being taught what to think, but never how to value themselves. You learn math. You learn history. You learn how to criticize yourself, but no one teaches you how to respect yourself. Instead, you absorb messages silently. Don't be too confident. Don't talk back. Don't stand out. Do better. Be more. Not like that. So you learn to doubt your instincts. You learn to apologize for your needs. You learn to question your worth. And slowly, invisibly, you stop trusting yourself. When self-esteem weakens, choices grow heavier, fear grows louder, procrastination grows deeper, relationships grow complicated. Life becomes something you endure instead of enjoy. You start performing instead of living. And the most dangerous part? You can live this way for decades and never realize why you're tired. Never realize why nothing ever feels finished. Never realize what is truly missing. Because the world constantly tells you what you lack. More money, more confidence, more beauty, more status. The world sells solutions, but it never identifies the core. The truth is uncomfortable. You do not rise or fall to your circumstances. You rise or fall to your self-esteem. And until that changes, everything else is temporary. So this book does not begin with positivity. It begins with honesty. Because real change never begins with lies. It begins when you finally admit, I don't feel valuable, and I don't know why. Or, I look confident, but inside I'm terrified. Or, I've achieved so much, but I still feel empty. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way, but there is something powerful waiting once you understand it. Self-esteem is not something you're born with. It is something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice, action by action. And no one ever taught you how, until now. This audiobook is not about self-flattering illusions. It is about psychological truth. It is not about pretending to love yourself. It is about learning how to earn your own respect. Not through perfection, but through integrity. Not through performance, but through authenticity. Not through denial, but through awareness. You are not broken. You are unfinished. You were never given the tools. You were given criticism instead. But tools can be learned, and lives can be rebuilt. What you are about to hear may challenge everything you think you know about confidence, may disturb comfortable habits, may expose hidden fears, But it will also offer something rare: clarity, a map where there was confusion, a light where there was doubt, a direction where there was fear. If you have ever felt invisible in a crowded room, stayed silent when you should have spoken, settled for less when you deserved, worked harder but felt smaller, this is for you. You are not weak for struggling. You are human. And the truth is, most of the world is walking wounded, smiling on the outside, starving on the inside. But you have chosen to listen, and that matters more than you know, because awareness is the first act of courage, and courage is where self-esteem begins. But now, a question hangs in the air. If self-esteem is the foundation of life, then what is it really made up of? And how do you rebuild something you never learned how to build in the first place? That answer changes everything.
Chapter 2. What self-esteem really is. Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshakable, even in the face of chaos? What if the secret isn't talent, luck, or charm, but something far deeper than everyone overlooks? Self-esteem is the quiet force that shapes your life in ways you barely notice. It's not a trait you are born with, and it's not a reward you earn by achieving external success. Self-esteem is the experience of being confident in your own worth, the deep inner knowledge that you deserve to live, to thrive, and to act in alignment with your true self. Yet for most people, this concept is misunderstood. They confuse self-esteem with confidence, self-respect, pride, or even arrogance. And these confusions can cost you more than you imagine. Confidence is temporary. It is based on what you do, achieve, or acquire. It can be high when you perform well and crash when you fail. Self-esteem, by contrast, is the backbone of your emotional life. It is the silent current that allows you to handle failure, face rejection, and keep moving forward even when the world seems stacked against you. Imagine two people in the same situation. Both fail at an important project. One collapses, feels worthless, and avoids challenges for months. The other feels disappointment, learns the lessons, and moves on with calm determination. The difference is not luck or intelligence, it is self-esteem. But what exactly does self-esteem consist of? Nathaniel Branden explains it as having two key components. 1. The sense of personal efficacy. This is the belief that you can handle life's challenges. It is not arrogance, it is trust in your abilities, judgment, and competence. When you feel effective, you are willing to take risks, make decisions, and step into the unknown because you know you can handle whatever comes. 2. The sense of personal worth. This is the feeling that you are fundamentally valuable as a human being, not because of what you do or what you achieve, but simply because you exist. When you possess this sense of worth, criticism stings less, setbacks feel less like catastrophe, and you treat yourself with kindness even in failure. Together, these two pillars form the essence of self-esteem. Efficacy without worth leads to anxiety and overachievement. You perform, but you never feel satisfied. Worth without efficacy leads to passivity and helplessness. You feel valuable, but powerless. True self-esteem balances both. It allows you to act effectively while loving and respecting yourself in the process. Think about your own life for a moment. When have you acted without confidence in your abilities? When have you questioned your right to exist, to speak, to assert yourself? These are not mere feelings. They are reflections of your current level of self-esteem. Branden emphasizes that self-esteem is psychological health in action. It's not a self-help slogan. It is not thinking positively or affirming yourself without action. It is a dynamic force that determines how you experience reality, make choices, and relate to others. And here is an essential truth. Self-esteem is not static. It can be strengthened or weakened by daily decisions and behaviors. Every act of honesty, responsibility, courage, or integrity strengthens it. Every act of avoidance, self-denial, or compromise diminishes it. Let's take a closer look at what self-esteem is not, because misunderstandings here are deadly. Self-esteem is not arrogance. Arrogance hides insecurity behind loudness. Self-esteem quietly trusts itself. Self-esteem is not entitlement. Feeling worthy does not mean expecting the world to bow to you. Self-esteem is not approval seeking. True self-esteem doesn't rely on others' validation. It rests in self-recognition. Self-esteem is not perfection. It's about being effective and worthy, even while acknowledging flaws and mistakes. Understanding this distinction is critical because most of society teaches the opposite. We are taught to win approval, avoid mistakes, and hide our vulnerabilities. We are rewarded for outward success, but rarely taught how to honor inner value. This miseducation creates a generation of people who are skilled, accomplished, and yet secretly insecure. They chase achievements to prove themselves instead of building inner trust. They seek love, fame, and recognition to fill the void that self-esteem alone can satisfy. The irony is staggering. Self-esteem does not require achievement or recognition, it enables them. When your self-esteem is strong, success becomes an outcome, not a requirement. You can act boldly without fear of judgment, make decisions without paralyzing doubt, and accept setbacks without despair. Brandon also highlights a crucial point. Self-esteem is the ethical foundation of life. Why? Because when you value yourself, you naturally respect others. When you trust yourself, you naturally act with integrity. When you are aware of your worth, you naturally pursue purpose instead of aimless pleasure. Let's pause for a moment and visualize this. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, facing the unknown. Confidence may let you jump, but self-esteem ensures you land. It is the invisible cord that binds courage to safety, action to morality, and effort to fulfillment. Yet despite its importance, self-esteem is often ignored in education, parenting, and society at large. We are taught how to think, how to act, how to achieve, but rarely how to value ourselves. And as a result, the silent crisis Brandon described in Chapter 1 continues to grow, quietly in homes, workplaces, and hearts around the world. The good news is that self-esteem is learnable. It is not a magical gift for the lucky few. It is not reserved for geniuses or saints. It is available to anyone willing to examine themselves, challenge old beliefs, and commit to personal growth. This book and this audiobook are designed to guide you on that journey. Each chapter will reveal the pillars, principles, and practices that strengthen self-esteem. You will learn how to live consciously, accept yourself, take responsibility, assert yourself, pursue purpose, and act with integrity. The 6 pillars that form the foundation of a resilient, empowered, and fulfilling life. But here is a question that lingers as we close this chapter. If self-esteem is the force that determines everything in life, why is it so fragile in so many of us? And what hidden habits, beliefs, and fears are silently eroding it day by day without our awareness? The answers lie ahead.
Chapter 3. The 2 Pillars of the Soul. Have you ever asked yourself why some people seem unbreakable while others crumble under the smallest pressure? What if the secret to resilience and true inner strength lies not in talent or luck, but in the unseen architecture of the mind? Before we dive into the 6 pillars of self-esteem, we must understand the foundation upon which they are built. Nathaniel Branden calls them the 2 pillars of the soul: self-efficacy and self-respect. Together, they form the invisible scaffolding of a life well lived, a life in which challenges are met with courage, not fear, setbacks with learning, not despair, and opportunities with confidence, not hesitation. Let's explore the first pillar. 1. Self-efficacy. Trust in your ability to act. Self-efficacy is the sense that you can effectively handle the challenges life throws at you. It is the quiet voice inside that says, "I can deal with this. I can take the next step. I can figure this out." People with high self-efficacy do not live without fear. They feel it, just like anyone else. The difference is that fear does not dominate them. Instead, they act in spite of it. Consider 2 students faced with a difficult exam. One panics, freezes, and doubts every answer. The other feels nervous, prepares, and tackles the exam methodically. The difference is not intelligence, it is self-efficacy. It is the learned belief that you can solve problems, make choices, and navigate life successfully. Self-efficacy is not magic. It is cultivated through practice, reflection, and experience. Every time you take action and see results, successes or failures, you strengthen it. Every time you avoid action because of fear, you weaken it. The crucial insight here is simple. You are either reinforcing your sense of efficacy or eroding it every single day. No one else controls this process. No degree, status, or approval can substitute for it. It is built quietly, moment by moment, choice by choice. 2. Self-respect. Trust in your right to be. The second pillar, self-respect, is less about what you do and more about who you are. It is the recognition that you deserve to live fully, speak honestly, and assert your needs without shame. People with self-respect do not seek permission from others to exist. They acknowledge their own worth even when mistakes are made. They understand that being human is enough. They do not need to earn value by achieving, pleasing, or conforming. Lacking self-respect leads to many common human struggles. Settling for toxic relationships because you feel unworthy of better. Avoiding difficult conversations because you fear rejection. Ignoring your own needs to satisfy others. Feeling ashamed of your desires, choices, or identity. Self-respect is what allows you to say no without guilt, yes without hesitation, and enough without apology. Without it, self-efficacy can become dangerous, a sharp sword in the hands of someone who doubts their own value. You may achieve, perform, or manipulate, but deep down you still feel fragile. The interplay between the 2 pillars, Branden emphasizes that these pillars are intertwined. One without the other leads to imbalance. High efficacy with low self-respect. You can succeed, but you never feel worthy. Anxiety and self-criticism dominate. High self-respect with low efficacy. You value yourself, but you feel powerless. Frustration and helplessness dominate. Only when both are strong do you experience true self-esteem, the courage to act, and the peace to be yourself simultaneously. Think of it like a building. Self-efficacy is the foundation, strong, stable, capable of supporting weight. Self-respect is the walls, protective, enclosing, giving meaning and form. A building with a strong foundation but fragile walls can collapse under pressure. A building with strong walls but a weak foundation will crumble when weight is applied. Similarly, a human life with self-efficacy but no self-respect may achieve, but it will feel hollow. A life with self-respect but no efficacy may feel good about itself, but it will accomplish little and struggle to navigate reality. How these pillars show up in daily life. Imagine a person preparing for a critical presentation at work. Self-efficacy. I can research, organize, and deliver this presentation successfully. I can handle unexpected questions. Self-respect. I have the right to express my ideas clearly and honestly. My value is not diminished if I make mistakes. When both are present, the individual acts with confidence, dignity, and authenticity. When either is missing, performance suffers and inner turmoil grows. Another example, personal relationships. With strong efficacy and respect, you can communicate boundaries clearly, solve conflicts effectively, and maintain intimacy without fear. With weak efficacy of respect, you may avoid confrontation, tolerate abuse, or feel constantly anxious about acceptance. The pillars are silent forces guiding every decision, every reaction, every thought. Building the pillars. The encouraging truth is that self-efficacy and self-respect can be strengthened intentionally. Awareness. Recognize your habits, fears, and beliefs that weaken efficacy or respect. Action. Take deliberate steps to act in alignment with your values and capabilities. Reflection. Observe results without harsh self-judgment. Learn and adjust. Consistency. Strength grows gradually like muscle through repeated mindful effort. Every small act, speaking your truth, honoring your commitments, trying even when scared, reinforces these pillars. Every act of avoidance, self-denial, or compromise erodes them. Brandon calls this the practice of living consciously, and it is the first of the 6 pillars we will explore in detail later. Why this chapter matters. Understanding the 2 pillars is more than theoretical. It's transformative. It gives a map for why you feel strong in some areas of life and weak in others. It explains why setbacks can feel devastating or trivial depending on your inner foundation. And it shows the path toward rebuilding strength from the inside out. These pillars are not just concepts. They are the lifeblood of resilience, courage, and authentic living. But here's the critical question that lingers. If self-esteem depends on these 2 pillars, then why do so many of us go through life with one or both severely weakened? What hidden beliefs, old fears, and unnoticed compromises are quietly chipping away at our inner strength? The answers and the practices to reclaim them will be revealed in the next chapter. And one more thing, strengthening these pillars is not easy. It will challenge comfort, confront fear, and demand honesty you may have avoided for years. But once you commit, the transformation is profound and irreversible. The next chapter will show exactly how low self-esteem undermines every aspect of life and why ignoring it is no longer an option.
Chapter 4. The Cost of Living Without Worth. Have you ever asked yourself why some people fail despite talent, opportunity, or even effort? What if the reason isn't circumstance, but a hidden debt to yourself that you've been ignoring all along? Living without self-esteem is like trying to breathe underwater. You can survive for a time, but you will eventually collapse. Nathaniel Branden describes this as a quiet, often invisible cost. It's not just about feeling bad. It affects every decision, every relationship, every moment of your life. And most people never realize the price they are paying until it becomes undeniable. Let's explore this cost in detail. The inner toll, anxiety, fear, and paralysis. When you lack a sense of worth, the simplest choices become battles. Should I speak up? Should I try? Should I trust? Each decision is filtered through doubt. Each action carries invisible chains. Anxiety becomes a constant companion. Even small tasks feel like mountains. Fear of failure paralyzes you, and fear of judgment dominates every interaction. The ironic part is that people without self-esteem often work harder, achieve more, and try to prove themselves. Yet they never feel satisfied. The internal voice whispers, "You're still not enough. Not yet. Not ever." Even success feels hollow. Even praise feels suspicious. Even love feels conditional. Living like this is exhausting. It depletes energy, motivation, and creativity. It creates a life where survival takes precedence over growth, and performance becomes a substitute for being. The cost in relationships. Low self-esteem silently dictates who you allow into your life. It shapes the boundaries you set or fail to set. It determines whether you tolerate abuse, manipulation, or neglect. People with low self-esteem often settle for relationships that leave them feeling small, avoid conflicts out of fear of rejection, overcompensate to gain approval or affection. All of this comes at the cost of authenticity. You present a version of yourself that is acceptable rather than real, and every day the distance between who you are and who you pretend to be grows wider. Think about friendships, romantic partnerships, even work relationships. How often do you say yes when you want to say no? How often do you silence your voice to keep peace? How often do you sacrifice your needs for acceptance? These are invisible debts that compound over time, and their price is heavy: frustration, resentment, and a lingering sense of emptiness. The professional cost. Self-esteem is not just personal, it is deeply professional. Consider two employees, one with high self-esteem, one without. The confident employee speaks up in meetings, takes risks, and asks for what they need. The insecure employee hides, avoids responsibility, and doubts their value. Both may be talented, both may work hard, but the insecure employee is limited by the inner critic, constantly second-guessing, apologizing, and shrinking. Over time, opportunities slip away, not because of incompetence, but because self-esteem affects visibility, voice, and initiative. Brandon argues that low self-esteem is one of the most overlooked barriers to career success. It silently undermines potential while leaving external performance intact enough to survive, but never to thrive. The psychological and emotional debt. Living without worth creates a constant tension between who you are and who you pretend to be. Your mind becomes a battleground of shame, guilt, and self-doubt. You may distract yourself with achievement, entertainment, or busyness, but the underlying emptiness persists. Depression, anxiety, and chronic stress are often symptoms of this silent debt, not because something external is wrong, but because internally your sense of value is compromised. You either honor your worth or you deny it. The denial creates stress, fear, and emotional suffering. Imagine carrying a weight invisible to others. You smile, you perform, you appear functional. Yet every day that weight presses harder. You may not see it clearly, but your body, your mind, and your life feel the cost. And the spiritual and existential cost. Self-esteem is not only psychological, it is existential. Without it, life feels fragmented, meaningless, or out of control. You may achieve externally, but internally you feel adrift. You may pursue goals, but they never satisfy. You may love, but fear dominates intimacy. Brandon emphasizes that living without self-esteem is like living in exile from yourself. You are present in the world, but absent in your own life. This exile is silent, subtle, and deeply damaging. It affects decisions, health, relationships, and fulfillment. And yet many go decades without recognizing the cost, believing that effort, achievement, or distraction can compensate for inner neglect. And the ripple effect. The cost of low self-esteem extends beyond the individual. Families suffer when one member undervalues themselves. Workplaces suffer when talent is underutilized. Communities suffer when people do not act from integrity and courage. Your self-esteem is not just a personal matter. It affects everyone you touch because energy, confidence, and value are contagious. When you undermine yourself, you limit not only your life, but the lives of others. Brandon illustrates that self-esteem, therefore, is not selfish. It is a necessity for human flourishing. When you honor your worth, you elevate everyone around you. And when you ignore it, the consequences ripple silently through your life and society. The urgency of change. Here is the critical takeaway. Low self-esteem is not harmless. It silently drains life, even when it is hidden beneath performance or distraction. Ignoring it allows fear, doubt, and compromise to shape your destiny. Facing it, however, opens the door to transformation, courage, and purpose. And that is where this book and this audiobook comes in. It will not just tell you what self-esteem is, it will show you how to rebuild it, step by step, practice by practice, pillar by pillar. But before you can rebuild, you must first confront the cost of ignoring it. You must recognize the ways low self-esteem has shaped your life and admit where it has held you back. Only then can you move toward change and toward a life where fear, doubt, and silence no longer dominate. The question that lingers as this chapter closes is both urgent and transformative. If low self-esteem is silently shaping your life in ways you cannot fully see, how many opportunities, relationships, and moments of joy have been quietly lost? And more importantly, are you ready to stop paying this hidden cost and begin reclaiming the life you were meant to live? The answer begins in the next chapter, where we explore the first of the 6 pillars, the practice that builds awareness, courage, and control, living consciously.
Chapter 5. The First Pillar, Living Consciously. What if the way you live right now is only a fraction of your potential life? What if the simple act of paying attention, truly noticing yourself and your world, could transform everything? Living consciously is the first and foundational pillar of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden describes it as the cornerstone of personal growth, the act of being present, aware, and deliberate in every thought, feeling, and action. Without it, self-esteem cannot flourish. With it, life becomes intentional, empowered, and alive. The meaning of living consciously. To live consciously means more than just being awake or going through the motions. It means being fully aware of yourself and your reality. It is noticing your choices, your motivations, your behaviors, and understanding the impact they have on your life. Most people drift through life on autopilot, reacting instead of acting. They respond to external pressures, fears, and habits without examining them. This unconscious living erodes self-esteem because it disconnects you from the most essential part of yourself, your mind and your agency. Branden emphasizes that consciousness is not passive. It is a practice, an ongoing effort to observe yourself, your actions, and your inner world. It requires courage to confront what you see without denial, rationalization, or avoidance. Why awareness builds self-esteem. When you are conscious, you see clearly where your fears control you, where your beliefs limit you, where your habits undermine your goals. Clarity allows choice. When you recognize the patterns that shape your life, you can decide to reinforce them or change them. Without awareness, life is shaped by habit, fear, and unconscious programming. Think about it like driving a car. Living unconsciously is like driving with your eyes closed. You may reach some destinations, but accidents are inevitable. Living consciously is like driving with full attention, aware of every turn, every obstacle, and every opportunity. Consciousness is the fuel for self-efficacy and self-respect. It empowers you to act intentionally rather than react automatically. It helps you notice when you're honoring your values and when you are betraying yourself. The 3 dimensions of living consciously. Brandon identifies 3 primary dimensions to living consciously. Awareness of reality. Seeing the world and yourself as they truly are, not as you wish or fear them to be. Avoiding denial, rationalization, and self-deception. Observing facts, emotions, and consequences without distortion. Awareness of purpose. Knowing why you act, what you value, and where you want to go. Avoiding mindless routines or the pull of external approval. Making decisions aligned with your long-term vision and principles. Awareness of integrity. Recognizing when your actions align or misalign with your beliefs and values. Acting deliberately, not under pressure, fear, or habit. Maintaining honesty with yourself even when it is uncomfortable. Each dimension reinforces the others. When you see reality clearly, you can align actions with purpose. When you align actions with purpose, you cultivate integrity. Integrity strengthens self-respect and self-efficacy, creating the foundation for the other pillars. Practical steps to living consciously. Conscious living is not theoretical, it is practical. Brandon suggests daily practices that strengthen awareness. Mindful observation. Spend time noticing your thoughts, feelings, and reactions without judgment. Ask yourself, why did I react this way? What did I avoid noticing? Intentional action. Take deliberate steps aligned with your values, even if small. Choose actions rather than reacting automatically. Self-reflection. At the end of each day, review your decisions and actions. Ask, did I act consciously? Did I honor myself? Did I avoid denial or excuses? Challenge automatic patterns. Notice behaviors driven by fear, habit, or social pressure. Pause, question, and decide how to act differently. Through these practices, awareness becomes habitual. You begin to notice unconscious thoughts before they dictate your actions. You learn to pause before reacting, observe before judging, and choose before complying. The power of consciousness. Living consciously transforms ordinary life into a stage for growth and empowerment. It allows you to identify self-defeating beliefs and behaviors. Take responsibility for your choices instead of blaming circumstances. Act with purpose instead of drifting aimlessly. Build courage through small, consistent, deliberate actions. Brandon notes that living consciously is a lifelong practice, not a destination. Even moments of awareness followed by unconscious behavior are valuable. They reinforce observation and learning. Self-esteem grows not from perfection, but from persistence and honesty. The pitfalls of ignoring consciousness lead to subtle decay in self-esteem. Denial becomes a habit, hiding truths you need to face. Self-deception prevents learning and growth. Habits, social pressures, and fears dominate decisions. Life becomes reactive, fragmented, and hollow. People may achieve outward success under these conditions, yet they feel inner emptiness. They may earn approval, accolades, and wealth, but internally they know they are drifting. The invisible cost is profound. Low consciousness corrodes efficacy, erodes respect, and weakens every other pillar of self-esteem. Living consciously in practice. Imagine a conversation with a colleague that triggers anxiety. An unconscious response might be avoidance, defensiveness, or passive agreement. A conscious response begins with awareness. Notice the fear, tension, or assumptions in yourself. Identify what is truly at stake and what is your responsibility. Then choose a response aligned with your values and purpose. Even if the outcome is imperfect, conscious action strengthens both self-efficacy and self-respect. It is the smallest acts of awareness that lay the foundation for courage, integrity, and personal power. But here's the challenge and the suspense. If living consciously is the foundation of self-esteem, then how many choices have you unconsciously surrendered to fear, habit, or avoidance? And how radically different would your life feel if you reclaimed even a fraction of those lost moments with awareness, courage, and deliberate action? The answer and the first actionable steps await in the next chapter, Self-Acceptance, the second pillar, where you learn to honor yourself exactly as you are.
Chapter 6. The second pillar, self-acceptance. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt a flicker of discomfort with who you are? What if that small flicker has been quietly shaping every choice, every relationship, and every moment of your life? Self-acceptance is the second pillar of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden calls it the practice of acknowledging and embracing your own reality. It is the foundation of inner peace, courage, and authentic living. Without it, no amount of effort, achievement, or outward confidence can compensate. Self-acceptance is not about self-flattery or pretending to be perfect. It is about facing yourself honestly, embracing your strengths and weaknesses, and giving yourself permission to exist fully. The essence of self-acceptance. Many people live their entire lives trying to become someone they are not. They chase ideals imposed by society, parents, or peers. They compare themselves endlessly to others. They hide parts of themselves they believe are unacceptable. Self-acceptance flips this paradigm. It says, I am human, I am flawed, I am learning, and I am enough just as I am. When you accept yourself, you stop punishing yourself for mistakes. You stop hiding from the truth of your own life. You stop needing constant validation from others. Branden emphasizes that self-acceptance is not passive. It is active acknowledgement, observing, embracing, and taking responsibility for who you are without denial or distortion. The components of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance involves three critical elements. Awareness of reality. Acknowledge your thoughts, feelings, and actions exactly as they are. Avoid denial, rationalization, or excuses. For example, if you feel anxious or afraid, recognize it without judgment. I feel fear. This is my experience. Non-judgmental observation. Accept yourself without condemnation. Observing flaws does not mean endorsing them, it means understanding them. You can notice your limitations without labeling yourself as a failure. Ownership of self. Accepting yourself includes taking responsibility for your choices and actions. It does not mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean you can face consequences without self-loathing. Together, these elements form the active practice of self-acceptance, a daily habit that strengthens self-esteem and resilience. Why self-acceptance matters. Without self-acceptance, your self-esteem crumbles. You may appear confident externally, but inside you are fragile. You may perform, achieve, and please, but your inner world is turbulent. People without self-acceptance often suppress emotions, believing them unacceptable. They avoid challenges for fear of failure or judgment. They engage in self-sabotage or perfectionism. They depend on external validation for a sense of worth. These patterns keep them trapped in a cycle of frustration and self-doubt. Self-acceptance, by contrast, frees you from these traps. It allows you to embrace your humanity while striving for growth. It turns failure into learning, criticism into insight, and self-reflection into empowerment. Practical ways to cultivate self-acceptance. Observe your inner dialogue. Pay attention to the voice in your head. Replace harsh self-criticism with honest, compassionate acknowledgement. I made a mistake. That is part of learning. Embrace imperfections. Identify areas of self-judgment and consciously accept them. For example, I am impatient. I notice this, and I am working to improve. Face fears directly. Accept that fear, doubt, or anxiety is part of the human experience. Do not run from these feelings. Acknowledge and act despite them. Honor your needs. Self-acceptance requires recognizing your needs, desires, and boundaries. Saying no when necessary is a profound act of self-respect. Reflect daily. End each day by reviewing moments of self-rejection and self-compassion. Ask, where did I honor myself today? Where did I deny myself? Through consistent practice, self-acceptance becomes a default mode, a steady foundation upon which self-esteem can flourish. The ripple effects of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is transformative in every dimension of life. Emotionally, you feel less shame, guilt, and anxiety. Mentally, you gain clarity and insight into your choices and behaviors. Relationally, you communicate authentically and form healthier connections. Professionally, you act confidently, make decisions aligned with your values, and recover from setbacks effectively. Brandon points out that self-acceptance is the gateway to authentic living. When you stop fighting yourself, you stop projecting insecurities onto others. You stop seeking approval, controlling outcomes, or hiding from truth. You finally inhabit your own life fully. The danger of rejecting yourself. Rejecting or denying yourself has steep costs. It fuels anxiety, depression, and self-doubt. It fosters dependency on external validation. It erodes self-efficacy because you don't trust your own judgment. It undermines every other pillar of self-esteem. Living without self-acceptance is like trying to build a house on shifting sand. No matter how much effort you put into other areas, the foundation is unstable. And this is why Brandon places self-acceptance immediately after living consciously. It is the practice of embracing reality internally before acting externally. Self-acceptance as an act of courage. Accepting yourself requires courage because it confronts the conditioned voices of society, family, and past experiences. It challenges fear, shame, and habit. It asks you to face truths you may have avoided for years. But the reward is extraordinary. Inner peace, resilience in adversity, freedom to act from authenticity rather than fear, the ability to grow without self-punishment. Self-acceptance is the quiet revolution within yourself. It is the practice of saying, I am here, I am enough, I can face life as I am. As this chapter closes, consider this. How many moments of your life have been shadowed by self-rejection? How would your decisions, relationships, and opportunities change if you fully accepted yourself, flaws, fears, and all? The next chapter will show how self-respect is strengthened further by taking responsibility, how owning your life and actions transforms inner value into active power.
Chapter 7. The third pillar, self-responsibility. Have you ever felt powerless, like life is happening to you instead of through you? What if the key to freedom, confidence, and self-worth is simply owning the choices you make every single day?
Self-responsibility is the third pillar of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden emphasizes that taking full responsibility for your life, your choices, your actions, and their consequences is not a burden, it is a liberation. Without it, self-esteem falters because you are living as a passive observer instead of an active participant in your own life. Understanding self-responsibility. Self-responsibility means acknowledging that you are the primary agent of your life. It is the recognition that your decisions shape your reality, not luck, fate, or the actions of others. Many people confuse responsibility with blame. Branden clarifies, taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means understanding your role in shaping outcomes and refusing to give your power away. When you accept responsibility, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop attributing your success or failure solely to others, and you start seeing yourself as capable, effective, and empowered. Without responsibility, life feels chaotic, unfair, and uncontrollable. With responsibility, even challenges become opportunities to exercise agency, integrity, and courage. The three dimensions of self-responsibility. Branden identifies three core aspects. Responsibility for your choices. Every thought, action, and decision matters. Even small choices, what you eat, how you respond to a colleague, how you spend your time, shape your life. Avoiding responsibility by blaming external factors erodes self-esteem and agency. Responsibility for your well-being. Physical, emotional, and mental health are your responsibility. You cannot rely entirely on others to nurture or protect you. Awareness, self-care, and conscious choices are acts of responsibility. Responsibility for your actions and their consequences. Own the outcomes of what you do, successes and failures alike. Excuses, rationalizations, or denial weaken self-esteem. Owning your actions builds credibility, trust, and inner strength. Strengthens self-esteem. Self-responsibility reinforces both self-efficacy and self-respect, the two foundational pillars we explored earlier. Efficacy. By taking action and observing results, you prove to yourself that you can navigate life. Respect. By owning your choices and values, you honor your right to exist and shape your destiny. In essence, responsibility is the bridge between self-awareness and empowerment. Without it, awareness becomes passive observation and integrity becomes abstract moralizing. Common obstacles to responsibility. Many people unconsciously resist responsibility even when they desire self-esteem. Blame shifting. It's their fault I'm unhappy. Excuse making. I can't change because circumstances are against me. Avoidance. I'll deal with it later. It's too hard now. These behaviors provide temporary comfort but slowly erode self-esteem. They reinforce a sense of helplessness and dependency. The paradox is simple. Responsibility is not limiting, it is liberating. By accepting your role in life, you reclaim the power that was always yours. Practical steps to cultivate self-responsibility. Track your choices. Keep a journal of decisions, actions, and their outcomes. Reflect honestly. What role did I play? What could I have done differently? Avoid blame and excuses. When setbacks occur, ask, what can I learn? What can I control? Focus on your influence rather than external forces.
actively shape your life. Set goals aligned with your values. Take deliberate steps toward them daily. Small, consistent actions compound into personal power. Acknowledge consequences. Celebrate successes, learn from failures, and adapt. Avoid self-punishment. Accept results as feedback, not as judgment on your worth. Expand your influence. Take responsibility in areas where you can make a real impact. Influence grows confidence, which strengthens self-efficacy and self-respect simultaneously. Responsibility is both the foundation and the engine of self-esteem. Without it, the pillars crumble. With it, they flourish. The courage to own your life. Taking full responsibility is not easy. It confronts fear, denial, and avoidance. It demands courage, honesty, and persistence. But the rewards are extraordinary. Inner strength and resilience. Clarity in decisions. Freedom from blame and victimhood. Authentic empowerment in every aspect of life. Brandon calls this the practice of living purposefully. When you accept responsibility, you are no longer a passenger, you are the driver. And driving your life consciously and courageously is the most profound affirmation of your value. As this chapter closes, consider, how much of your life is shaped by fear, habit, or the expectations of others rather than your conscious choices? If you embraced full responsibility for your actions, what doors of courage, opportunity, and freedom would suddenly open? The next chapter will explore the fourth pillar, self-assertiveness, where you learn to honor your needs, speak your truth, and act boldly in the world.
Chapter 8. The fourth pillar, self-assertiveness. Have you ever held back from speaking your truth, afraid of judgment or conflict? What if the quiet voice inside that you've been suppressing is the key to your freedom, power, and self-worth? Self-assertiveness is the fourth pillar of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden describes it as the courage to honor your thoughts, feelings, and values, and to express them openly in the world. Without assertiveness, self-respect becomes passive, self-efficacy remains dormant, and opportunities are silently lost. It is not about aggression, dominance, or forcing your will on others. It is about standing in your truth, confidently, respectfully, and deliberately. The meaning of self-assertiveness. Self-assertiveness is the active expression of your self-worth. It involves saying yes when you want to say yes, and no when you need to say no. It is refusing to compromise your integrity for the sake of approval, comfort, or avoidance. Many people confuse assertiveness with selfishness. They worry that expressing needs or boundaries will hurt others or make them unpopular. Branden makes it clear, self-assertiveness is not selfish, it is self-respect in action. When you assert yourself appropriately, you create relationships and opportunities based on honesty, clarity, and authenticity. You stop living by the standards, fears, or expectations of others. The three dimensions of self-assertiveness. Honoring your own thoughts and feelings. Recognize that your perceptions, emotions, and desires are valid. You have the right to think differently, feel deeply, and act according to your values. Expressing yourself openly. Communicate your ideas, opinions, and needs clearly and respectfully. Avoid passive compliance or aggressive domination. Assertiveness is about balance, strength without intimidation, honesty without cruelty. Protecting your boundaries. Set limits where necessary to preserve your integrity, energy, and values. Refuse to allow others to manipulate, control, or take advantage of you. Boundaries are not walls, they are a declaration of your worth. Why assertiveness is essential for self-esteem. Without assertiveness, other pillars weaken.
Self-efficacy. If you do not act on your beliefs and values, your ability to influence outcomes remains dormant. Self-respect. Ignoring your own needs signals internally that your value is negotiable. Self-responsibility. Avoiding assertion allows external forces to dictate your life. Brandon emphasizes that self-esteem is incomplete without the courage to act boldly in alignment with your inner truth. Assertiveness is the bridge between inner conviction and external action. The dangers of non-assertiveness. Failing to be assertive can lead to resentment toward others and yourself, chronic stress and anxiety, missed opportunities in personal and professional life, weakening of all other pillars of self-esteem. Consider the person who always says yes to avoid conflict. Over time, they accumulate frustration, lose self-respect, and feel powerless. Their life becomes shaped by the expectations of others instead of their own values. Practical steps to develop self-assertiveness. Identify your values. Clarify what matters most to you. Assertiveness begins with knowing your boundaries and priorities. Practice honest communication. Use I statements to express feelings and needs. I feel uncomfortable when, and I need. Start small. Assert yourself in low-risk situations to build confidence. Gradually tackle more challenging scenarios with courage. Maintain respect and empathy. Assertiveness is not about confrontation. It is about clarity and honesty. Respect others while honoring yourself. Reflect and adjust. After each situation, evaluate your approach. Notice what worked, what felt authentic, and where growth is needed. The ripple effects of self-assertiveness. When practiced consistently, assertiveness transforms life. Relationships, healthier, more honest, and mutually respectful connections. Work, clear communication, leadership, and influence without fear or compromise. Personal growth, courage, confidence, and authenticity become habits. Self-esteem. Each act of assertion reinforces self-respect, efficacy, and responsibility. Brandon stresses that self-assertiveness is the active expression of the self you have been cultivating through the previous pillars. It is the outward manifestation of your inner value. The courage to stand in your truth. Self-assertiveness requires bravery. It asks you to risk rejection, conflict, or discomfort for the sake of authenticity. It asks you to act in alignment with your principles, even when it's inconvenient or unpopular. But the reward is profound. Freedom from self-betrayal, clear, empowered communication, strengthened self-esteem, a life lived on your terms. Even small acts of assertiveness accumulate into lasting transformation. As this chapter closes, ask yourself, how many moments in your life have been lost because you were silent when you should have spoken, or compliant when you should have said no? What would your relationships, career, and sense of self be like if you acted boldly and honestly in alignment with your values every single day? The next chapter will reveal the fifth pillar, living purposefully, where every action, decision, and choice is infused with meaning, direction, and power.
Chapter 9. The fifth pillar, living purposefully. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to glide through life with clarity, direction, and energy, while others drift aimlessly, exhausted and unfulfilled? What if the secret to fulfillment and self-esteem is simply having a life deliberately chosen, not one left to chance? Living purposefully is the fifth pillar of self-esteem. Nathaniel Brandon defines it as the practice of identifying your values, setting meaningful goals, and acting in alignment with them consistently. Purpose gives your life coherence, meaning, and momentum. Without it, self-esteem falters. With it, every action reinforces your inner strength and worth. The meaning of living purposefully. To live purposefully is to live intentionally. It is the opposite of drifting or reacting to circumstances. Many people move through life reacting to events, pressures, and distractions. They say yes when they want to say no, postpone decisions indefinitely, and let fear dictate choices. Living purposefully shifts this pattern. It means you know what matters most to you. Make choices aligned with your values and long-term goals. Take deliberate, consistent action toward meaningful outcomes. Purpose is not abstract. It is practical, concrete, and observable in your daily life. The 3 dimensions of living purposefully. Brandon identifies 3 key aspects. Clarity of purpose. Understand what you truly value and why. Ask yourself, what matters most in life? What kind of person do I want to be? Without clarity, action becomes random and self-esteem suffers. Goal setting and planning. Translate your values into actionable goals. Define concrete steps, timelines, and priorities. Purpose without action is wishful thinking. Action without purpose is chaos. Consistency of action. Act regularly and deliberately in alignment with your goals. Small, consistent efforts compound into real progress. Avoid distractions, procrastination, and decisions driven by external pressures alone. Why living purposefully strengthens self-esteem. Living purposefully reinforces multiple pillars simultaneously. Self-efficacy, purposeful action proves your ability to influence outcomes. Self-respect, acting in line with values honors your own worth. Self-responsibility, you own your life direction rather than blaming circumstances. Self-assertiveness, purpose clarifies when to say yes, when to say no, and when to stand firm. Purpose acts as a compass. Without it, you may be competent, ethical, and assertive, but still feel lost, frustrated, or unfulfilled. The pitfalls of a purposeless life. Without purpose, life becomes a series of reactive choices. Decisions are driven by fear, habit, or social pressure. Energy is wasted on trivial matters. Motivation fades quickly because actions lack meaning. Self-esteem erodes because achievements feel hollow or accidental. Brandon emphasizes that purposeless living silently undermines all other pillars. Even conscious, self-accepting, responsible, and assertive people can feel insecure if their efforts are misaligned with meaningful goals. Practical steps to live purposefully. Clarify your values. Identify principles that guide your life. Integrity, growth, creativity, relationships, contribution. Write them down and reflect regularly. Set meaningful goals. Translate values into actionable goals that challenge, excite, and inspire you. Ensure goals are specific, measurable, and aligned with long-term purpose. Prioritize and act. Focus daily energy on actions that support your purpose. Say no to distractions, obligations, and habits that detract from your mission. Review and adjust. Periodically reflect on progress and obstacles. Ask, am I still aligned with my values? Are my actions purposeful? Adjust course as necessary without judgment or guilt. Celebrate small wins. Purposeful living is reinforced by consistent effort. Every deliberate step strengthens self-esteem and reinforces commitment. The ripple effects of living purposefully. Living with purpose transforms every area of life. Emotionally, life feels meaningful, energizing, and fulfilling. Mentally, clarity, focus, and decision-making improve. Relationally, boundaries and priorities are clear, fostering healthier interactions. Professionally, work becomes intentional, productive, and aligned with long-term goals. Purpose integrates all other pillars of self-esteem, turning potential into action and inner strength into tangible results. The courage to live purposefully. Living purposefully demands courage because it requires choices that may conflict with comfort, habit, or external expectations. It challenges procrastination, indecision, and distraction. But the rewards are extraordinary. A sense of control and direction, motivation that is intrinsic rather than dependent on approval, confidence in decisions and actions, a life that feels coherent, meaningful, and valuable. Brandon emphasizes that purpose is not fixed. It evolves with experience, insight, and growth. The practice of living purposefully is continuous, a lifelong commitment to alignment, clarity, and action. As this chapter closes, ask yourself, how often have you drifted through life, reacting instead of choosing, letting circumstances dictate your journey? What would change if every decision, action, and moment were guided by deliberate purpose aligned with your deepest values? The next chapter will reveal the sixth and final pillar, personal integrity, where alignment between beliefs, words, and actions transforms self-esteem into unshakable authenticity.
Chapter 10, the sixth pillar, personal integrity. Have you ever felt the subtle tension between what you say and what you do, or between your ideals and your actions? What if the key to unshakable self-esteem is simply making your inner truth match your outward life? Personal integrity is the sixth and final pillar of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden defines it as the practice of honoring your commitments, being honest with yourself and others, and aligning your behavior with your values and beliefs. Without integrity, all other pillars, consciousness, self-acceptance, responsibility, assertiveness, and purpose, lose their power. With it, self-esteem becomes unshakable because your inner and outer worlds are in harmony. The meaning of personal integrity. Integrity is more than honesty. It is alignment. It is the integration of thought, emotion, and action. It is living consistently with your values, even when it is difficult or inconvenient. Many people believe integrity is only about moral or ethical decisions. Branden clarifies integrity is broader. It includes personal honesty, honoring promises, keeping commitments, and acting in accordance with your principles. Without integrity, self-esteem is fragile. Even achievements, conscious living, and assertiveness feel hollow if your life is out of alignment with your beliefs. The dimensions of integrity. Branden identifies three key aspects of integrity. Internal alignment. Your beliefs, values, and intentions must match your thoughts and emotions. Ask yourself, do I truly believe what I claim to believe? Do I honor my inner voice? Consistency in action. Your behavior must reflect your principles. Commitments, promises, and personal standards are not optional. They are the pillars that support your self-respect. Honesty with self and others. Speak truthfully about your feelings, opinions, and needs. Avoid deception, manipulation, or self-denial. Honesty reinforces credibility and inner confidence. Why integrity is essential for self-esteem. Integrity strengthens every pillar of self-esteem. Consciousness aligns awareness with honest action. Self-acceptance accepts flaws while acting consistently. Self-responsibility honors your accountability. Self-assertiveness ensures your voice matches your values. Purposeful living keeps your goals authentic and meaningful. When integrity is practiced consistently, self-esteem becomes stable, resilient, and self-reinforcing. Without it, internal conflict undermines confidence, causes guilt, and sabotages authenticity. The consequences of lacking integrity. Living without integrity erodes self-esteem slowly but surely. Inner conflict between values and behavior creates stress and anxiety. Chronic guilt, shame, or self-doubt develops. Relationships suffer due to inconsistency or dishonesty. Personal growth stalls because actions are misaligned with goals. Even subtle deviations, ignoring your feelings, breaking small commitments, or rationalizing dishonesty accumulate, undermining the foundation of self-worth. Brandon emphasizes that integrity is not about perfection. It is about honest effort, awareness, and alignment. It is the active commitment to live congruently, moment by moment. Practical steps to build personal integrity. Clarify your values. List the principles and standards that matter most. Use them as a guide for decisions, relationships, and actions. Track promises and commitments. Keep promises to yourself and others. Start with small commitments and expand to larger ones. Practice honest communication. Speak your truth with clarity, respect, and courage. Avoid deception, manipulation, or self-denial. Honesty reinforces credibility and inner confidence. The power of integrity. When integrity is consistently practiced, it transforms life. Decisions are guided by values, not fear. Relationships are transparent, respectful, and authentic. Challenges are met with courage because self-trust is unshakable. Self-esteem becomes resilient, independent of external approval. Brandon emphasizes that integrity is the culmination of all pillars. It is the final stabilizing force that turns self-awareness, acceptance, responsibility, assertiveness, and purpose into an integrated, empowered life. As this chapter closes, ask yourself, how often have you compromised your values, ignored your inner voice, or acted inconsistently with your beliefs? What would it feel like to live every day aligned with your principles, speaking your truth, honoring commitments, and acting with complete authenticity? Conclusion of the Six Pillars. Nathaniel Branden's Six Pillars: living consciously, self-acceptance, self-responsibility, self-assertiveness, purposeful living, and personal integrity are not abstract concepts. They are daily practices, disciplines that build self-esteem from the inside out. Mastery of these pillars transforms life. Fear and doubt are replaced with courage and clarity. Self-criticism gives way to compassion and honesty. Passivity turns into deliberate action. Confusion is replaced with purpose and alignment. As you integrate these pillars, you reclaim your power, honor your worth, and create a life of fulfillment, authenticity, and meaning. Every choice, every word, and every action becomes a reflection of your self-esteem in action. This is not the end. It is the beginning of living fully, empowered, and true to yourself. Embrace the practice, embrace the journey, and let your life become a testament to your value. Thank you for joining this journey through Nathaniel Branden's The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. Remember, self-esteem is built one conscious choice, one act of self-respect, one alignment of principle at a time. Your journey is ongoing, and every day offers the chance to strengthen, refine, and live fully in alignment with your true self. Return to these pillars often, revisit them, practice them, and let them guide you to a life of authenticity, courage, and lasting self-worth.
Imagine your life as a grand tapestry. Each thread represents your thoughts, actions, choices, and beliefs. Before these pillars, some threads were loose, some misaligned, and some frayed by fear, doubt, and self-neglect. Now, through conscious living, self-acceptance, responsibility, assertiveness, purpose, and integrity, you have learned to weave those threads deliberately. Every decision, every act, and every reflection strengthens the fabric of your self-esteem. This journey does not end with an audiobook. It is ongoing. Each day offers a new chance to practice these pillars, to honor yourself, to act with courage, and to live fully aligned with your true self. Remember, your self-esteem is not a destination. It is a practice, a commitment, and a reflection of the life you choose to live. Return to these lessons often. Revisit the pillars. Let them guide your choices, strengthen your confidence, and illuminate your path. Your life can now be lived with courage, clarity, and authenticity. And that is the true power of self-esteem. Thank you for joining this journey through Nathaniel Branden's The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. Your path forward is yours to shape every conscious step of the way. The audiobook ends here, but your journey begins anew.